What's up everyone, Fritz here again with another episode of Sneakerhead Ambition, and today I've got a bot ranking video for you. This is the first one of these that I've done in about 6 to 8 months. And it's definitely a topic that a lot of people want covered, and I think it's something that's changed drastically enough at this point that a video is warranted. So today I'm going to break down what I feel are the top bots in the space right now. And this is heading into 2023. So this is being filmed essentially for all intents and purposes, right at the end of 2022. So this will be valid for at least another 2 to 3 months heading into 2023 and should give you a good idea of what bots are the best heading into next year. The first thing I want to mention is that when you view this video is extremely important, right? I can't stress to you enough how much the botting landscape has changed in the 4 years I've been in this, and how much every one of those years the top bots are just rotating, changing, or there's just new competitors in the space, right? If you looked at a video that I posted about a year ago on a bot ranking video, the thing is completely obsolete, right? Like the whole game has changed, what you're botting has changed, sites have changed, how they're run, right? Everything has changed. So you do need to keep in mind when you're viewing this, if you view this sometime at the end of 2023 or 2024, right, this isn't really going to be a valid video, right? It's not going to be very helpful to you. If anything, it'll lead you in the wrong direction. So just keep that in mind. And also another thing to consider is that I still believe a lot of these companies are going to go out of business, especially some of the ones that have been around for a while. I don't know which ones are going to. I can't, I'm not clairvoyant. I can't tell the future, but I can tell you that they're struggling. So some of these bots might disappear. I don't know. Some of the ones I don't list might disappear because they're just not quite as good as these bots. But just remember when you're watching this, and just remember to continue to check on these things. Don't just take my word for this now and expect it to be correct in 6 months from now. But this is how I personally view just the botting landscape right now, and just where these bots rank and which ones I think would be the best option for somebody that is trying to purchase an AIO bot, a Shopify bot, sneakers, any of those sites. I will cover them all today. The other thing to keep in mind that I didn't necessarily realize when I started botting was how much a bot was like a fluid, active process, right? I kind of thought you'd buy a bot and it just kind of worked, right? But that's not the case, right? Devs are constantly having to update the code, make adjustments when they're playing this cat and mouse game with companies' bot protections, right? They're switching how they're doing things, they're adding questions, right? There's a lot going on. So just remember that that's a big reason too why these things change, right? A bot is not like a toy you buy and it is what it is, right? It's not going to change. A bot is a fluid, constantly changing process, and devs have to make updates or the thing isn't going to work. So that's a big reason why, again, that these things change so much, right? These bots are businesses. If they're not bringing in enough money, they can't continue to put as much resources into updating the bot, right? Some bots have teams of devs, some have one. So just keep that in mind, right? Like a bot can be doing really well for a while and then fall off, and people are like, what happened, right? Like sometimes, again, they can't put as much effort in. People have different life goals, people move on, right? So just remember that when you're buying a bot, right? You're not buying something that you're going to buy and it's just, it is what it is and that's it. It's a constantly updating process. So just something to think about when you're assessing a team, when you're thinking about buying a bot, is that things can change. And again, it's not the dev's fault all the time, but just, people aren't going to be coding a bot for 10 years, right? So that is a reason for a lot of the turnover too, is that it's not like a finished product. It's a, constant updating process. So that's a big reason why they change. Now, in today's video, I'm not going to be doing it the way that I usually do a video. As far as I'm concerned, when I've done these videos before, there's been a clear hierarchy of top 3 or top 5, and I had a couple of honorable mentions. I don't really think that's the case right now. I think that, as you'll see in the rankings in a second, I think that there are a couple bots that I'm going to point out that I think are just hands down the best. But then after that, I'm not going to rank a lot of the bots. I'm just going to simply tell you the benefits of having them and just what they're good at running, right? So I think, like I said, I'll get into this in a second, but I think that there is a couple bots that just, quite frankly, make it in the top section, just are hands down the best couple bots. But then there are a lot of other bots that don't do as much as those, but absolutely crush certain sites. So I am going to have a small kind of top 3 or so, and then I'm going to have a lot of bots that I'm not saying aren't as good, but they just don't do as much. So just, pay attention to that, see how this information fits your situation, and just go off of that. But I do think that pretty much every bot I mentioned today is worth owning if it fits your specific situation, your budget, your skill set, all those things. All right, so starting off, I'm going to go over the bots that I do think are the top 3 bots, right? And that's going to be Valor, Wrath, and Mech. Again, in my opinion, these are head and shoulder pretty clearly above the rest of the bots on this list. And a big reason why is just that they cover a lot of sites, right? They all do Shopify well. They can all run Footsites, right? They can all run other sites as well that I'm not supposed to mention. And they all also have automation, right? So again, I think that any of these 3 bots are the best option. There's a pretty large price discrepancy between Valor and Mech, which are like $150 to $250, which is an absolute steal, to Wrath, which is a little over $1,000. If you are tight on money, right? I don't think that the difference between these 3 is that big. I would just go with Valor or Mech. But again, I do think Wrath might edge the other 2 out by a little, but I don't think it's $1,000 worth of improvement, right? Any of those bots is going to be a great option for you, right? I've hit pairs on all of them within the past 2 days. The 3 of them just work really, really well. So those are the bots that I think if you had to just have one bot and that was all you could have, I would get one of these 3 bots. I think they're the best AIO bots. Everything that I'm about to cover in a second are all outstanding bots too, but I think you will get more bang for your buck for those sites or those bots, again, Mech, Valor, and Wrath, just because you can run more sites, right? So I'm not saying that those 3 bots are better at every site than the bots I'm about to go over in a second, but I think that those 3 are clearly the top. So I think if you had to grab one of them, maybe grab Wrath, but again, I don't know that the price difference is worth it. So maybe go with Valor or Mech. But again, all of them do really well on many sites, right? They have automations. They all have 2 instances, so you can run more tasks, run separate sites, one on your home PC, one on a server, or one on a server and another server. They're all going to work really well. So those are what I feel, again, just as of right now, heading into 2023, are the top 3 bots. That'd be, again, Valor, Wrath, and Mech. All right, so now that we got those top 3 bots out of the way, I'm going to break down about 5 to 6 different bots and go over, again, what they're good at, why I would purchase them, and just a general gist of what they do well. The first one I'm going to talk about, I can't name, but this is a big development within the past week or 2. All right, so I'm going to talk about Footsites first. There is a bot that has been absolutely looting foot stores online for 6 to 8 months, right? It had been unstoppable. People had pretty much stopped running other Footsite bots because just nobody else could hit. As of a couple days ago, it seems like that might have been clipped. It didn't hit anything on the Cherry 11 drop, hardly, for me at least, and that's what I heard just in general. So if that is the case, there are several bots that did really well on the Jordan 11s with Footsites that I'm going to go over. Now, a big thing too is that it seems like from the data that we've gotten over the past month or so, Footsites have started to drop a lot more pairs first come first serve online like they used to. This is obviously great for us because that's a site that you can kind of run it up on if you have the right bots to run. Now, if this bot is done and not working, right, there are 3 bots that I would recommend for Footsites that all do really, really well. That would be Secret.io, Prism, and Haya. Might be Haya, but I call it Haya. All 3 of those are pretty good bots, right? Secret is going to be pretty much just Footsites, right? So that's a good Footsite bot, but the 2 that I'm really going to cover are Prism and Haya. Both of them are AIO bots, right? Both of them cover a lot of sites, and both of them absolutely smoked Footsites for the Jordan 11s. Had I run those, I would have hit 100 a clip. I would look into getting both of those, or one of them, right, if you can. And I think that those are even cheaper options than the first 3 that I went over, right? They're not quite as good as those top 3 bots that I mentioned, but Prism and Haya both are going to be really good options for somebody who's trying to bot a lot of sites, right? They work on Shopify. they work on Footsites, they work on DSG, they work on Hibbett, they work on, right? Like they work on a lot of sites. Again, not that expensive right now. Prices are really low, but I think that both of those are really good options. If you have one of the top bots and you're looking for another bot to supplement that top bot that will run on other sites that they don't, both of these are the top two options I would give you, right? If you've got Wrath or Valor or Mech and you want a bot that can run more sites that those don't run, or an additional bot to run alongside of those, I think that Haya and Prism are both great options. And like I said, I'm throwing these into the Footsite category, but they do a lot of other sites well as well. So definitely look into those. I think that those are both very good options. Again, not quite as good as the top three bots that I mentioned, but I do think that both of those are outstanding options for most people. All right, moving on to Shopify. I'm going to mention a bot that I've recently got and has been on the scene now for several months, and that's Chegg AIO. I really like this bot so far. It's probably my favorite Shopify bot because it really just simplifies Shopify. I know that one of the biggest issues for most people with Shopify, especially if you're running multiple sites at the same time, is the issue with getting into queue at the right time, right? That has become increasingly difficult for many people just because of how many individuals are running bots on Shopify. Chegg, long story short, eliminates that, right? It fixes that for you. It handles that, which is a big weight lifted off your shoulders, especially if you're running a bunch of other sites at that time. It also makes it really easy to change the delays, which might not seem like that big of a deal to some of you. But again, if you're running 5 to 10 bots on a drop, it can be hard to change all the delays at the exact right time, without having to click on all this stuff and then missing other bots that you're running and just missing information. It makes it harder, right? But Chegg really simplifies Shopify. Like I said, I've loved this bot since the second I got it, and I've hit over 20 pairs on it so far. So really happy with that. Going to keep using it moving forward. But again, this is a good example of I'm not ranking this bot below Mech, Valor, and Wrath on Shopify. I'm ranking it below those because it really only does Shopify. So just keep that in mind if you're buying it. If you're looking for a bot to just smoke Shopify, this is a great option. All right. But again, just know its limitations. That's all it runs, which isn't a bad thing, but it is something to keep in mind when you're purchasing it, right? If you want something that you only have enough money for one bot, I don't know that this would be the one. But again, if you've got an AIO bot or a bot that does well on other sites and just want Shopify covered, Chegg is an outstanding option that I've really loved using since the second I got it. All right, now I'm going to break down two bots that really are for more obscure sites, right? And that's going to be Elephant AIO and Analog. I'll go over Hibbett first, right? Both of them work on Hibbett. I have not hit yet on Hibbett with Elephant, but that's on me. I know that the bot works. I've seen people hit with it, but I have hit a lot of pairs on Analog. I've already hit, I think, 17 pairs on Analog just off Hibbett restocks, which just runs in the background and hits while you sleep. So if you're looking for, again, if you're trying to bot a bunch of sites like Footsite, Shopify, DSG, the usual, sneakers, all the good stuff, right? These aren't the bots for that. They're just not. They don't do that. But if you have a couple bots and are like, I want to hit on another site that I can't hit on right now, I would get one of these. Analog is great because you don't have to be there, right? I just run it in the background and it hits for me, right? I've hit dunks, I've hit some fours, I've hit some lost and founds, hit some cherry 11s on restocks, right? It's an outstanding bot. It has easily paid for itself. It comes with 2 instances, so you can run one of them on a server, one of them on your home PC 24/7, and you can hit on there when you're not home. That's obviously a great feature, right? So Elephant and Analog both work on Hibbett and work quite well. Elephant also works on sites like Nordstrom's, right? Like Chic, like Hibbett, right? They have a DSG model, but it's not working. But I've hit with Elephant AIO and Chic a bunch, and I need to work on Nordstrom's and I need to work on Hibbett with that because I know the bot works. I need to figure out some cookie stuff with that. But I recommend both of these highly because I have had success and I know that both of them work. So again, if you're looking for a bot to add to what your lineup and you want something that hits sites that aren't typically sites that bigger bots run, these two are both great options. So again, I think that you should look into these if that's something that you're trying to expand to. Now I'm going to mention a bot that, again, I think is an outstanding option if you are looking for a flex raffle bot or just a raffle bot in general. Up until this point, right, I pretty much used Osiris, and I like the bot, but it's not my favorite. Grinch Automations is hands down by far the best raffle bot or flex bot that I've used in 4 years. It's not even close. The thing is by far the best piece of software I've used to enter raffles. It is very new. It's only been around for about a month when I'm filming this, so I think some of you have started to probably see people post about it, but the thing is amazing. I would highly recommend getting it if you can run Flex in store, or you run Ship to Me, or you're just looking for a raffle bot, right? The thing can enter thousands of entries in seconds, tops a minute or so, right? And it also has an account generator that has an SMS bypass. So use your imagination, but people have a lot of accounts that they've generated on this thing that they're able to enter at scale. I've struggled with other bots before because they're not able to check raffles fast enough, right? I'd used Noble, like I said, I'd used Osiris for Flex before, and it just was not worth it, right? It was just too difficult to get them all in, get them all checked. It was a lot more difficult than this bot. This bot is CLI, and it is going to take you a time or two to get used to it. But the second that you've done the process once, it is really easy. So again, don't get this bot if you're trying to bot Footsites and Shopify and DSG, right? And sneakers. It's not going to do any of that. But if you are trying to hit flex raffles, get this bot. If you can get it in a group buy, get it whatever way you can, right? I would highly recommend getting it because like I said, it's just easily the best bot that I've ever used for those sites. So definitely something to consider moving forward. And like I said, this is a very new bot. I think it's only been around for a month or so, but it's definitely something I would try to get my hands on if you can. And finally, I'm going to mention Nike and sneakers, right? So you got sneakers and you got Nike desktop. I'm not allowed to mention some of the bots on this list that I do use, right? I try to give you all everything that I can, right? I try to be as upfront and as honest and as transparent as humanly possible, right? I show you all when I fail without concern, right? Because I know if somebody's not showing you failing, it's not that they're not failing. Their ego is just too big to put it out there. But there are a lot of bots that work very well on this site. Some of the ones that I can mention, right, are TSB and USneakers. Both of them work. I know people that hit with them. Those are not the bots that I've run at this point. There are other bots on this list that have the module, and a lot of bots are adding it. Like I just saw Kodai added. I know Toru has Nike.com, right? But this is a category where you're going to have to do your own research. Like I said, the bots that I did mention do work, and I know people hit with them. But there are other bots too that I'm just not supposed to mention or talk about, right? Like if I'm told by the people in the Discord that are the devs for a bot to not talk about it, I'm not going to talk about it. So, just do your own research on this. There are a lot of good sneakers bot options. I know that a lot of people 6 months ago thought it was impossible to hit on sneakers. I promise you that is not the case now if you get all of your setup right. So that's really all I can mention. Ask your cook group, ask people in the group what the best sneakers bots are, and you will get the answers. But there are a lot of options out there that I'm not going to rank, just again, due to terms of service that I'm not supposed to mention. But if you thought that you couldn't do Nike sneakers because nobody was hitting, that paradigm has shifted at this point at the end of 2022, right? That's one of the biggest sites people are going after now, and people are having a lot of success. So heading into 2023, sneakers botting is a big thing and something that I would really get on board with if you're trying to maximize the profits you're making by running bots online. Next, I'm just going to give some examples of just how much the botting rankings have changed, which bots, and just to give you an idea of how different this can look even a year from now, right? So the first example, right, is that earlier this year, Whatbot and Trickle were easily two of the top 5 bots in botting, right, in sneaker botting. All that needs to change is one site needs to go away, and those 2 bots are done, right? I'm not saying that they can't make adjustments and move forward with different modules, but if you had purchased a bunch of copies of those for a couple $1,000s or $500 for Webot, like that sucks, right? Like you need to be aware of the risks when you go into this, right? A bot can go under like that, right? A site can change overnight. An entire line of sneakers can disappear overnight. You need to keep that in mind, right? So this is not an investment that's a 100% thing. I need that to be obvious, all right? Another good example, when I got into this in 2019, Kodai and Cyber were the top two bots by far, right? And they were for the first like 3 years I bought it. I never thought that I would see the day when Cyber would be irrelevant, which quite frankly it is now. Kodai is also pretty irrelevant right now. People paid, 2019, 2000, people were paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for a copy of those bots. I'm shocked that it happened, but in retrospect, right, like things change, right? Market conditions change, newer competitors come on. Now, the one I will say is Wrath has been at the top since then. So that is a unicorn, but just remember that, right? Just even from earlier this year, things are completely different. From a couple years ago, you would hardly even recognize some of the names on that list. So again, nothing you're purchasing is 100%, and you need to be aware of that when you're making these investments. So as you can see, I don't think that there's a clear top bot right now. There are just better options for whatever situation you're in, right? If you're somebody, like I said, who's really trying to only run Shopify and that's all you want to do, get Chegg, right? If you want to run every site, get one of those AIO bots. If you want to have a bot for each site, right, you could pick and choose from the list that I just put out there. It really depends on your situation, right? How your resources, financial and botting resources, right? Your knowledge, the groups you're in, how much capital you have. All of those factors are things that are going to play a major role in which one of those bots and how you should take this advice and apply it to yourself. So don't just buy one of the top 3 bots because I said that those are the best overall bots, right? They might not be the best for your situation. So just look at that, right? If you want to run sneakers, that's a different animal, right? If you want to run all these other sites, kind of mix and match the bots. But I don't think that there's this like clear top hierarchy anymore. I just think that there's a lot of good bots out there that just have different purposes. I am going to make individual videos in the upcoming weeks on Chegg, Elephant, and Analog because I feel like those are all really good options and I've had success with them. And I just wanted to wait until, I've actually hit with a bot and, had success with it. I really try to not ever talk about stuff that I haven't done well personally, right? I try to have some skin in the game. But I mean, at this point, I've pretty much ran every bot on the market. So I do feel like I can talk on them and I feel like I can rank these effectively from my personal experience and just hearing what other people in this space are doing. So just remember that, right? I'm not up here talking about a bunch of bots I've never used. I really have used all of these and had success with all of them. And this, again, is my personal opinion, but I do feel like it's based off a good amount of evidence. Obviously, some of it's anecdotal in myself, which is the lowest form of evidence we have as humans. But, according to people that I've talked to around, right, and you can see checkout logs and different data points like that. But I do think that pretty much everything on this list can have a place in your botting lineup or setup if you just do it intelligently and just focus on what you're going to be able to do, again, from your personal situation. Now, again, I know this is not an economics lesson, but if y'all are missing the big picture, you're missing the entire thing, right? Recessions are normal. I don't know if y'all know this, right? They happen every 7 to 10 years. We're in one right now. There was one in 07, 08. There was one in 2000. There was one in 96. They happen. This isn't some crazy thing that nobody knows how it's going to play out. I would argue that this might be the biggest one, and we're not even halfway through it yet, possibly, but they're normal, right? Look back over time. Some of y'all are clowns on here saying that the resale market went down because people are sick of resale prices. That is the most uneducated, clueless take I've ever heard on this situation, right? That's just not the case. Right? People don't have disposable income right now. That's why people aren't buying these shoes that nobody needed in the first place, right? You need food, shelter, water, right? You don't need $500, $200, $300 sneakers. That is one of the easiest expenses to cut imaginable when you get into a tough financial situation. That's what's going on here. Now, with that being said, recessions always end, right? I'm not saying that it's going to end tomorrow, but we will come out of this. And if you can build up your skill set at the bottom of this market when things are cheaper, you are going to set yourself up well to be extremely profitable down the road. I'm not telling you that it's going to be easy to make a bunch of money right now selling sneakers, right? I'm working 24/7 almost, right? With online and obviously in-store outlets. If you've watched this channel, you know that's a massive part of my business. It's harder right now, right? But again, that doesn't mean you're not able to do it, right? If you only want to work 5 hours a week, it ain't going to happen. If you're willing to work 5 to 7 extra hours a day on top of your full-time job, I'm going to tell you go for it, but you could, it's still going to be hard, but it can be done, right? Like it can. So just keep that in mind, right? All of these ridiculous reasons that people are giving for why the market is down are wrong. We're in a recession. If they don't mention the recession, they don't know what they're talking about. So just keep that in mind, right? Like all of these prices are going to come back because this is a normal function of an economy, all right? What happens in business when we hit a recession? Like I said, bad companies who have not been innovative, who have not been smart with their cash and their investments go under, right? Unless the government bails them out, but that's a different story. But they go under. Think about this. In 2007, right? Where did all these tech companies come from? The bottom of the recession, right? All of these companies were formed during that time. Old companies get pushed out, aka old bots get pushed out. New competitors come in. So again, I know I harp on this a lot on this channel, but if you think that the sneaker market is dying, it's not. Every market is dying right now. So definitely check these bots out, right? I think that all of them can have a place in somebody's, setup for botting. But again, just listen to the specifics of them. Don't buy, Chegg thinking that you're going to hit every site, right? Or buy Haya that think that you're going to smoke Shopify, right? They're not their strengths. They're both outstanding at some sites, but they're not their strength. Another thing that I just want to throw in here, right? Know that you're buying something that is a business, right? Or a piece of software that can go under. I would predict that prices are still going to go down come January, February, right? Even though prices are low right now, we're in the most profitable time of the year, right? With the most drops, with the most stock, it's a really good time of year to be selling because it's the holiday season. I think we're in for quite a dip again come January and February, especially because there just aren't that many drops, right? Those are typically some of the slowest times of the year for drops. So just remember that, right? Like I think that the holiday season and those sales are kind of propping up a lot right now. That's gonna get hit hard come January and February. But again, just be smart with your money. Again, if you're putting up $100 for a bot like Prism, you could lose $100, but that's a lot less scary than what it was a couple years ago. And again, if you're able to get one of these bots and it is a bot that pushes through these tough times, you're gonna come out on the other side with software that's worth thousands of dollars again eventually. Again, I'm not telling you that's tomorrow, and I'm not telling you to just push through a couple more weeks and everything's gonna be okay. But it will be okay again eventually. It's just who can make it through, these difficult times and who can't. So we'll see what everybody's got. And again, just while there has been a lot of change since I've entered botting 4 years ago, I would say that over the past year, we've experienced by far the most change I've seen in a 12-month period, right? If you think about it, a year ago, Footsites were still dropping a lot of pairs. Yeezy Supply was dropping a lot of pairs, right? There were a lot more bots on the market that were working really well. A year later, the two sites that we were getting the most volume in on are just pretty much done. And then, And there's just a lot of new competitors. So I would say that this has been the most change I've seen. But again, this is the first time that sneaker botting has existed in a recession, right? I think sneaker botting really started around 2012 or so. I could be off by a year or two, but think about that. It's never been around during a downtime. That matters. So again, there's gonna be more turnover. There's gonna be bots that go under, more proxy companies that go under. You just need to be aware of that, right? It's gonna help you navigate this situation better. So again, I try to give you all information that can help you and just help you make more sense of the landscape as you try to achieve your goals. So I think there's more change coming. Like I said, I think it's still going to get a little worse, but I think that we're getting close to maybe halfway through it, right? Recessions usually last like 12, 18 months. We're probably like 6 to 7 in. So we could be halfway, but bunker down. As always, a massive shout out and thank you sponsors. Again, if you need anything, PROXIES, GMAILZ, Flex accounts, sneakers accounts, servers, right? All of it down there. If you need a group, got Notify down there. Got a wait list for my subscribers and followers, right? Everything that you need to bot is down there. And again, I'd use a mix of all of those different things depending on what site I'm running. But all of them are reputable companies that I've used successfully. I'm not up here pumping products that I've never used and never had success with. They all work for me. And again, if you need any of those resources, I would highly recommend looking at that information section below. There are discounts, there are Discord links. So check that out if you need it. And again, a massive shout out and thank you to all of them. Couldn't do it without them. Anyways, that's all for today's video and bot ranking video. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to help you try to navigate which one of these bots you should buy, what's best for your situation, what I would do in your situation. Always happy to help out. So definitely shoot me a message or comment on this video if you would like to ask. And then per usual, just follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I post on those sites daily and post content that is obviously bot related, but also in-store outlets, discount stores. So if you need any information on that, definitely check those out. And if you've ever found any of the information or my rants helpful whatsoever, would really appreciate you subscribing. It really helps my channel and just helps reach more people. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully this was helpful, and just check back in the next couple days. I should have another video up. And until next time, see ya.